Men who have been sexually assaulted by women, what's your story? In high school, a girl wouldn't take no for an answer. She found me at a party and put Xanax in my beer. Later, as I was almost blacked out, she started to perform oral sex on me. I was lucky my friends found us and put a stop to that shit. This post has fully convinced me not to drink anything at a party with horny people. She was my friend's mom. There was about 5 of us neighborhood boys who'd go swimming at her son's house. Afterward, she'd make us dry off and walk around in a circle. And she'd hold our testicles and penis as we walked past. We were about 4/5/6 of a years old at the time. Was watching the sexual assault scene and the butterfly effect when it triggered a flashback. I was 29. I've noticed a lot of people mentioning poor memory as a coping mechanism. I have the worst short-term memory. I've spoken to doctors about medication because it affects my work life and personal life. If I meet you at a party, I still might not remember your name after being told 10 times. Mom would guilt me into laying in bed with her at night, would tell me she didn't want to be on this planet anymore and would be leaving soon. Used to make me big spoon and rub up against me. Did that from childhood well into my teenage years. The last time it happened I was 16. She was drunk and rolled over and grabbed my dick. I shoved her off. She got pissed and didn't talk to me the rest of the night. I don't really see her much anymore. My mom's friend used to roughly jerk me off whenever I was left in her care. I never told my parents because she convinced me the tolerance would make me strong and desirable to girls in the future, and made it a secret between us. WTF. How old were you? Grade 6. So I was 11. As a child, my brother and sister both sexually molested and raped me. I was about 6 when my brother started, and about 9 or 10 when my sister started. She waited until we had a day off from school, and my parents were at work. She brought me into my parents' room and had me do a lot of things. At one point, she took out a recorder and taped it. Thankfully, that recording has since disappeared. I'm 39 years old now. I am no contact with either of my siblings. I'm so sorry. Sometimes blood isn't family. I hope you have a chosen family now. 13 Yo stepsister coming into her own. She was sexually abused by father figures earlier in her life. Used me as a tester. I was 6 Yo. Wow, that's super fucked up. I'm sorry that happened to you. My babysitter forced me to watch porn and asked if my penis was hard. I didn't do anything about it. When I was 5, my babysitter at the time made me strip down and lay on top of her naked body. She was maybe 14 at the time. Friend's mother. She was 50 something. We were teenagers. She assaulted at least 4 of us. This was the cool house where you could drink, hang out, etc. For my part, she once pointed a rifle, that I assumed was loaded, at me another kid and told us to wash her dishes. Part way through she reached into my pants and started stroking me. Her husband actually walked into the room during this, and when I looked to him he said, "Don't look at me. She's got the gun." I know other friends got a lot worse than I did. She also assaulted the girl who would later be my first adult partner with a vibrator. Her daughter's BF lived with them for a year and I'm pretty sure he got the worst of it. When I was in my early 20s she died of a heart attack and that guy brought a 6-pack to my house to tell me. Only time I've toasted to someone's death. I've had a few seriously unwell ex-partners. One used to just abuse the fuck out of me for hours till I gave in. There were regular sexual assaults which I diarized. When I went to the police they had me back 13x to get through the statement. I had 140 pages of text message evidence and 2 phone I gave M to collect the evidence from. I've spoken with this woman since. Before her interview the police assured her she wouldn't be charged, it's just a formality. 100% I would have done years in prison if I did all of that to her. That is fucked up beyond measure. The way assault on men by women is treated by the legal system is a global disgrace. Nowhere near on the level of your experience. When I was a small child my dad had a live-in girlfriend for a few years. In the end she would scream at him, hit him, throw things at him, wreck up the house and threaten to hurt me. Dad took his story and all his evidence to the police. They responded by turning up and confiscating all of his firearms in case he retaliated, which he'd never done in any form, or threatened to do. He was a roof shooter and needed his firearms to earn a living. Thanks Queensland Police. When I was a private in the army, a female friend in my unit became somewhat obsessive over me to the point of being a stalker after I rejected her advances. We had faulty locks on our barracks doors that could be opened with a pair of pliers. She would casually break into my room and wait for me, so we could talk about us. She would normally leave if I told her to, so I didn't think much of it. One night I came home drunk, passed out, and woke up in the middle of the night to her giving me a blowjob. I didn't even know how she got in my room. When I realized what was happening, she attempted to ride me. I pushed her off and told her to leave. My roommate, friends, NCOs, etc. Everyone just thought it was hilarious. It didn't really bother me, but I definitely look back and see that it was wrong. Edit. I wanted to thank the several people that have reached out to ask about my personal safety. I am fine. I also wanted to thank everyone else who left a supportive comment. This incident happened when I was stationed in South Korea back in 2006. I was 19 years old. I was also engaged at the time. The vast majority of the guys in my platoon were not getting any action, so they thought I was lucky. I got a lot of comments like, "You should have told her to come to my room if you didn't want her." My squad leader's stance was, "If you're not in jail, it's not my concern." My first line supervisor started referring to me as Romeo. I said it didn't really bother me. But looking back, I realized that I slept on my friend's floor for 3 weeks, until my door was fixed, in an effort to avoid her unwanted late night visits. That being said, I wasn't ever in any actual physical danger, and I think that's why most people chalked it up as not being that big of a deal. I received several private messages from guys telling that I am lucky, and to stop complaining about a free blowjob. And there are also several similar comments in this thread. That's the mentality that a lot of guys have, and it's a contributing factor as to why stuff like this isn't taken seriously. Didn't feel right sending a girl home late at night, so I let her stay with me in my hotel room. Wasn't planning on her staying that night and didn't really consider having sex with her. Next morning I thought I was dreaming of sex, then started wondering why it was feeling good, then I fully woke up just as I finished internally without a condom. I got tested and she was on her period, so unlikely to get pregnant. I thought I dodged some bullets and it was just unexpected sex or something, until I was with a new partner and we were swapping odd sexual encounters or something, and I brought that up and she was like, "Ooh, you were raped," which was odd since until that moment I didn't seriously think of it that way. I got roofied by my ex and she posted the sex tape to Pornhub. I was underage at the time. Not me, but my friend got sexually assaulted in my apartment about a year ago. Myself, my friend, and a girl had come back from a party and all three of us were really drunk. Me and the girl were going to hook up in my room. My friend just crashed on my couch. Now the girl had asked me if I was straight a couple times throughout the night, which was weird, but my horny drunk ass didn't care and ignored this weird red flag. So we're making out on my bed for literally 2 minutes and she rips her pants off, pulls my dick out and tries jamming it inside her. I'm barely hard and nothing's wet, so it's not sliding in right away. I go to adjust it and she gets up, freaks out and starts calling me gay. Accuses me of being gay for not getting hard in my mannerisms throughout the night. I'm just like, "You're insane," and she storms out of my room. I promptly go to sleep, not really caring or thinking about anything. In the morning I'm talking to my friend after we're both up and he tells me that he woke up to this girl with her hands down his pants jerking him off and she had moved his hand down her pants. He said he froze up and just pretended to roll over facing the couch and she got up and left my apartment. He's obviously upset about the assault and I wasn't thrilled about the encounter with her myself. He confronts her and tells multiple people the story, trying to out her for what she did. She lies and say they hooked up consensually. 90% of our friend group took her side and made fun of him, and it's really messed him up. He's doing better now though. In middle school, I was forced to move to the front of the bus after a few months. I was told I was in trouble, but she never told me what I did. I asked her once a week, over a few weeks, and she refused to tell me. Then one day, I left gym still dressed in my gym clothes and made it to the bus first. I asked again, and she said because of this and rubbed me all over, including my crotch. I honestly didn't feel violated. I was more confused because I thought she said I was doing that to someone else. About a year later, it clicked that she just wanted to molest me, so I was vocal about it. I was then pulled into an office and threatened by the principal to stop making stuff up, or I would be punished. I honestly feel more violated that they forced me to hide what happened. In a residential Christian boys' school, many of the teachers were molesting the boys over some 30 years. When one boy told the headmaster, he was caned for telling lies. The police have been interviewing former pupils for over a year, and a number of teachers are off to jail. Operation Beverly was at a party. Drunk younger girl kept cornering me and grabbing me. Was awful, but I'm a big guy and she was tiny and I felt terrible because I couldn't push her away. It felt terrible and everyone was laughing at me. Luckily another girl at the party recognized what was happening and saved me. Not as invasive as others here. Throughout school from elementary through high school, girls would play a prank on boys by stealing as much of their clothes as they could. They would literally gang up on one boy, hold him down and try to strip him to his boxers, running in all directions. You try to fight back? You're in trouble because boys don't hit girls. Report them to the office? Man up. They're just playing. It wasn't traumatizing, but the double standard was infuriating. Some guys just started swinging and damn the consequences. One time a hall monitor tried to take me to the office after I ran into the girls' bathroom for my pants. I just flipped him off and went running after my shirt. I was 12. My parents had called a family friend to see if their daughter could watch me for the night. Their daughter couldn't because she had plans. They had decided that one of her friends would be a suitable replacement. Everything was fine when she had arrived at our house. My mom said it was okay if we had left and got ice cream at some point if we wanted to. I really regret pushing for that to happen. Later on, after my parents leave, about an hour or two after me and the babysitter go out and get ice cream. In our town we had a reservoir and the McDonald's we were heading towards was close by to said reservoir. I didn't really think much of it. Her Jeep was cool, and I thought maybe she just wanted to take the longer route. She pulled off into one of the more secluded areas there, asking if her purse was in the backseat and if I could search for it back there. I obliged. That's when she had pushed me into the back seat. I thought that was weird because it was decently rough. She climbs into the back seat, putting her weight onto my chest, taking my arm, and grabs handcuffs out of said purse that was on the floorboard. Cuffs my arm on the handle of the door. I remember it being so tight around my wrist that it burned when I tried to wiggle out of it. She started to do those things to me. I didn't even know why. I kept saying no and crying, screaming for help. It felt like it lasted forever. She was finally done and she took the cuffs off and threatened me that if I ever told anyone about the favor she did for me, she would say I raped her. She drove back to my house and told me to take a shower before my parents got home. That was 4 nights before I tried to kill myself for the first time. I never came out with it. I didn't think boys could get raped by girls. I felt more comfortable speaking about it when I was 15, when I started to see my counselor. However, my parents didn't believe it happened when we had family counseling. No one in my family took me seriously. Sometimes my mom asks me questions about it now that I'm 22. However, having sex is a little difficult now. Sometimes if I overthink it, I get a really bad panic attack during. If someone is reading this, don't do what I did. Don't wait to tell someone. Tell someone, please. When I was a freshman in college, a girl who was friends with my roommate's girlfriend put a half Xanax bar in my drink. I woke up the next morning to her naked in my bed with no recollection of the past 12 hours. I'd like to think my dick wouldn't have been able to work in that state, but she definitely gave it her best effort. She majored in theology and is now a professor at a Catholic university. My friends gave me shit for the rest of the year. I brushed it off, but to this day I feel nervous around women. I wish I could have done something back then. It still haunts me. My older cousin on my mom's side simulated sex with me when we're alone, touched my genitals often, kissed me, and tried to have full intercourse several times. This happened between 8 to 13 years old. I was always scared and nervous when I was alone with her. She made me think it was normal though. I still have problems being romantically intimate with anyone and have never been able to trust someone in that way. I have been in therapy consistently for about 3 years now and have finally been able to unpack and heal from this. Although I originally came to therapy for other things, this part of my life is something that comes up a lot. Update: I want to thank everyone for their support, comments and responses, and for believing and validating my past. This is a difficult part of my life to talk about and I still carry shame from it. I am alone in real life because no one would ever believe me. Someday I will tell my family about it though, with the risk of being ostracized and alienated and called a liar. I was at a Volbeat gig at the Barrowlands in Glasgow about 5 years ago, and just as the gig finished and everyone started to leave, this woman in her late 30s, I was mid-20s at the time, came up to me and put her hand down my jeans and grabbed my junk and then just walked off. I know it sounds like I just let it happen, but I was very drunk and almost in shock at what had just happened. I just stood for a good minute thinking WTF just happened there, and then went on my way to get the train home. Similar thing happened to me in my late teens/early 20s. Went to the bar at my local. Older lady puts her hand down my trousers and has a good rummage around. I promptly left to smoke outside and had a chat with the bouncer, who luckily took me seriously and ejected her. It's the only time I was taken seriously. Even through all the booze and drugs and partying, I still remember Les going, "That's not okay, mate. Fuck that," then chucking her out. We both stayed at a mutual friend's house and were both drunk. She tried to kiss me unprompted when I was just chilling wasted in a chair with my eyes closed. Then she got on top of me and wouldn't get off when I told her to, so I had to throw her off. Party at my place. I was seeing a girl at that time, so I had no intention of anything with this girl. We were both drunk and decided to lay in my bed and chat with clothes on. I must have passed out because sometime later I wake up to her mounted on me, and I was just like, "OSHT no," then I climax while pushing her off me. I felt completely humiliated and I know no one would have believed it. I had an abusive ex-girlfriend who would get blackout drunk and threaten to kill herself if I didn't have sex with her. It was quite common for her to be on top and punch/slap me for having my eyes closed waiting for it to be over, trying to belittle me for not being a man. She was abused as a child and both her parents are drug addicts, so I assume it was some kind of power thing. It happened 5 or 6 times before I properly resisted and threw her off of me onto the floor. She left to some other guy's house and cried domestic abuse. She had keys to my apartment and they were in the hallway banging on my door, held closed by the chain, yelling for all to hear about the piece of shit I was. I was too scared to call the cops. The next morning she came back apologetic, confessing to have slept with all 3 of these guys the next morning. I played along long enough for her to go to the bathroom. I took my keys out of her purse, suggested we go for breakfast, and left through the kitchen door. I've got a great sex life with a loving partner, but I still cry when I sing The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald or reminisce of my time in Thunder Bay. Was at my regular bar and had some drunk girl try to playfully take my shot, which I was not having. She then told me we were going to fuck later and took her flip-flop off, put her foot on my chair and stroked my dick with her foot from inside my pants. I told her no, but didn't want to make a scene. BC sober guy versus drunk girl's word, you know. I did tell my bartender, who I'm good friends with, and she immediately cut the chick off and kicked her out. She was my babysitter and shamed me into thinking if I told anyone he'd get into trouble. This went on for a couple summers. Edit, wow, a lot of upvotes. For what happened to her? From what I hear, she got into an abusive relationship and moved to Carolina, not sure which one, with her mom. I hope her nothing but pain and misery and that the devil takes her to hell. Landlady threatened me with homelessness. In the late 90s I had a girl try to rape me. When I tried to report it, the police actually laughed at me and didn't file a report. It's hard for men because if men fight back and the girl gets injured in any way, the police will never believe the man. He will probably go to jail for assault.